Hello and welcome to another 3Dsurvey tutorial. This video focuses on the updates in the scan module. Version 3.1 brings a fresh revamp to the X-ray views. In fact, there's so much new stuff that we had to split it into two videos. With the release of the scan module, we received a lot of positive feedback on the X-ray views. However, we also received many additional feature requests. In this video, I'll show you what we've packed for you. The first thing we did was make everything a bit more efficient, so the whole X-ray views bundle is now calculated faster. Also, the buttons are more responsive. Now let's consider these X-ray views. They look sort of okay. The first thing I've got to do is alignment. I select this tool here and just align my walls with this perpendicular axis. And now my X-ray views are recalculated. Now let's examine these X-ray views. The top-down looks okay. These two, however, appear too bright, so I will have to recalculate them. But the top-down part I'm quite satisfied with, so I'll just focus on fixing the side views now. I right-click on the side view I want to change, and I click Recalculate. Here I can re-enter my parameters, in this case a higher color transparency. And soon I get a new X-ray orthophoto. This one looks much better. The transparency is higher and I can clearly see the outlines of things I'm looking for. And now I can use this view to generate floor plans. As you know, we use the second button to generate new layout or section. So I will create a new layout of my ground floor. As you can see, this dialog is now a bit different to be more user-friendly. We have also added the snapping plane height field and both technical parameters, which means you can now manually input the exact snapping plane height and adjust the resolution and transparency. However, the workflow remains the same. And my new layout is calculated. Now I've got my layout template. I can use it for every floor I need to vectorize. I'll just turn off the front and the right view, right-click the layout. When I click Recalculate, there's an option called Create New. What this does is, well, it creates an additional X-ray orthophoto, an adjusted copy of your initial view. As long as the main views are open, you can adjust the extent of the new orthophoto on them. The main parameter here, of course, is the snapping plane height and the vertical extent. And there we go, here's my first floor. To add another level, I'll also use Recalculate on this one. And repeat the process. And just like that, I've created my second, first and ground floor. And when you create a lot of layouts like that, you might get confused about which is which. That's why we've added an option to check the properties of each specific view. Right-click and select Properties. Here you can observe all the calculation parameters that were used to generate the view. Of course, you can also rename them, which is always a good practice. So these are the main improvements for what we could call the preparation phase. Now let's move on to the functional features. For this purpose, let's define a new longitudinal section. So I've got my first section here, and now I want to create another one. I could go about this by defining a new section, but I'd rather use Recalculate, since I've got all my settings there defined. Make sure I check Create New and adjust the source area. Now both of my sections are created. Okay, one last thing I want to adjust. This empty space up here, it's redundant, so I'll click Recalculate and readjust the source area. Just put this down and calculate, and it's instantly removed. Quickly I repeat this on the other section. This is good for when you're exporting orthophotos or images so that you don't export an empty space. Now let's finally do some vectorization. As you know, I can start drawing my line right away on my X-ray view. Whatever I draw here is created in the active CAD layer. But it would be really nice if I could just lock the X and Y axis. And now I actually can. Just hit F8 to toggle on the perpendicular mode, just like in CAD industry standard software. Now let's see some more of these perpendicular lines. Every time you press F8 or click that button, the perpendicularity toggles on and off. And that's not all. We also added some snappers to help you with connecting lines that you've already drawn. So in this case, I'm choosing nearest, so I can snap anywhere on the line. This really helps me if I just want my lines to be touching each other. There's also a midpoint option for when you want to snap in the middle of a line. We can use this here to split the line halfway. And of course, there's also a endpoint snapper, which is arguably the most useful one. Oh, and there's another feature in this scan module. What if I wanted to draw all these lines without clicking? Maybe if I click this button, they'll just magically appear. Now that's quite great, isn't it? But that's the story for another video, so stay tuned and check it out. Thank you for watching this 3D survey tutorial, and see you next time.